So the book that I have today with me is Das Kapital by Karl Marx. In English, it is called The Capital. So it was written by Karl Marx. It's a very lengthy account, and it has three books in a book, and it has three volumes, and you can think of those three volumes as three separate books, and each separate volume dealing with separate subject. And this is one of the most prominent work written in economics and to some extent in political economics, because it is a precursor to socialist ideas and economies. And in the first volume of the book, Karl Marx, the first volume is called The Process of Production of Capital. And so this whole book is the analysis of capital. And so the first, as I've just mentioned, it is called The Process of Production of Capital, and the first part of first volume is called Commodities and the Money. Here Karl Marx analyzes both commodity and money, and what they stand for and what they really means in terms of economies. So commodity is nothing but anything that can satisfy your want or desire in some way or other. It will be called will be called a commodity. So, and it doesn't matter what kind of satisfaction it gives. Like it can satisfy your thirst, hunger, or pleasure. It doesn't matter. It will be called a commodity. And in the further analysis down the thread, he explains that the other properties are the two main properties commodity is constituted of is exchange value and use value. So use value is nothing but utility, and exchange value is nothing but what you can get in return of that commodity is the exchange value. So utility, as Karl Marx points out, that is something that cannot be realized until unless a product is used or consumed, which is also something that is different from exchange value. So use value, we think of use value as utility. So something that has utility, something has that capacity to satisfy human want in some way or the other, means that commodity has a use value. And exchange value is nothing but what that product or commodity stand in a relation to other commodities and products in an economy. So as I've just mentioned, this is the analysis of capitalist mode of economies and capital. So commodity is a one fundamental basic elemental unit in a capitalist mode of economies, and commodity is just the basic unit. And capitalist mode of economy is nothing but an immense accumulation of those commodity makes capitalist society or capitalist economies. And I would like to point out that when Karl Marx is writing the book, there is no concept of socialist economy anywhere. So most societies are capitalist through and through. So that is something that he's pointing out in this analysis. And then he goes, and the first section, as I've just said, it's about the exchange value and the use value, and the second section is about the labor. And if you take the two properties of commodities aside for a moment, and you say, let's just look at something else, what is left there in a commodity, and then he points out to value, and which he equates to labor. And he says the another important aspect or a property that is there in the commodity is the labor. And the labor means the workmanship or the craftsmanship that went in producing a product. And So when you look at the product, and we generally don't think how much labor that went into the product in making and producing it. So that's something Karl Marx points out too. And when the terms that he uses for the labor are labor duration, productiveness of labor, specialization of labor, division of labor, which is the same thing, but specialization of a labor is a more fancy term and used more often. So this is something that Karl Marx points out to in his analysis, and he says that if you increase the productiveness of labor, the labor duration will go down, which is the common sense that if the more skilled the labor is, the less time he or she would take in producing a product. So that is something very obvious. Then Karl Marx does something here and there, and he points out that not everything that has value means that it also has human labor in it. For example, natural resources for water, or the oil that we get from the fruits and the vegetables and different kind of seeds. We get oil from the seeds. So he points out that it is not certainly the case that everything that has a use value also has the labor aspect to it. So, and then in the end of this section, he points out he concludes the whole analysis of what commodity is, and he says that commodity is not just a physical thing that we look at, because basically for us, we don't care about what that commodity stands for. We just use the commodity. And so he said that there's a metaphysical aspect to it. There are subtleties and elusive niceties about a commodity and a product that we necessarily don't think about that much, and what it stands for, how much labor it went. So for example, in producing a pencil, what raw materials were used, how those raw materials were confiscated, or how they were taken out from the forest, like the wood was used, the graphite, where the graphite lead comes from graphite. So that is other part of economies dealing with the metallurgy sciences, and the wood that is used, and then you make the pencil, and then you sell that, you give that to retailer, and retailer to shopmen, or the people who had stationery sell these pencils, and eventually to the customer for whom that pencil was made, and he is the eventual client to the people who are producing this pencil, and he's the one who's actually using the pencils. So he knows the use value, and because that is something only he can tell and he can realize, because he's the one using or consuming the pencil. So that is something that he points out. But the which is, a lot of it is common sense. There's nothing very thought-provoking here, but something that is, I haven't thought personally, was the use value was something that is very use value for utility, to realize utility. It's something that is very psychological, because how can you measure utility? How can you measure how much satisfaction you get from a product? It's something that is very psychological. Unless somebody puts a machine to my head, one cannot tell how much satisfied I am, or if I'm familiar with the more vocabulary, then only I can tell that.